In the imposing halls of the New York Central Court, the atmosphere was electric, a tangible mix of anticipation, anxiety, and solemn purpose that gripped every person in the room. The courtroom, with its soaring ceilings, polished wooden benches, and intricate molding, felt less like a sterile chamber of justice and more like a stage set for an epic drama. Every detail, from the gleam of the polished floor to the echo of hushed conversations, whispered of history, legacy, and the weight of the American judicial system. Reporters, law students, and influential onlookers filled every seat, their eyes darting between the raised platforms and the shadowy corners of the room. They weren't just spectators, they were eager participants in a live narrative that promised to redefine the very notion of justice. The low murmur of conversation was punctuated by the occasional clack of a keyboard or the rustle of a legal pad, each sound a reminder that today, every moment could be historic. Whispers of speculation swirled around, as if each attendee were holding their breath, waiting for the fateful moment when truth and deception would collide. At the center of this charged setting was Michael Reynolds, a middle-aged financial advisor whose life was now hanging in the balance. Accused of orchestrating a multi-million-dollar fraud, Reynolds sat at the defendant's table, his expression a blend of weariness and quiet resignation. The meticulously assembled evidence against him was intended to dismantle not only his career, but also the reputation he had built over decades. Yet, even as the prosecution laid out its case like a series of precise, unyielding blows, there was an unspoken current in the room, a sense that this case was more than a simple matter of financial misconduct. The stark fluorescent lights above cast long shadows that seemed to mirror the internal struggles of those present. The tension was almost palpable. Every tick of the courtroom clock resonated like a heartbeat, each moment stretching out as if time itself were waiting for the truth to be revealed. In that heavy silence, the very air seemed to pulse with emotion, a heady blend of dread, hope, and defiant determination. For many in attendance, this trial symbolized a deeper battle, a confrontation between established power and emerging forces of change. The room buzzed with a shared understanding that justice was not merely a procedural formality, but a living, breathing entity that demanded respect and courage. The setting itself beckoned the audience to lean in, to question not only the narrative of a single case, but the broader implications of truth in a society often swayed by wealth and influence. As the proceedings began, every eye in the room was fixed on the unfolding drama. The stage was set for a showdown that promised not only to challenge the status quo, but to remind everyone present of the enduring power of truth and integrity. In that moment, the New York Central Court was not just a building, it was a crucible where the fate of one man and perhaps the conscience of a nation would be decided. Following the charged energy of the courtroom, all eyes shifted subtly to a quiet figure seated in the second row. Barron Trump. Unlike the boisterous tension that gripped the gallery, Barron exuded a dignified calm, a silent force that contrasted sharply with the frenzied debates unfolding before him. Dressed in a simple, impeccably tailored black suit, his appearance was understated yet undeniably commanding. There was no flashy embellishment to his look. Instead, his modest attire spoke of a man who understood that true strength often resides in subtlety. Barron sat with a measured posture, his back straight and his hands resting lightly in his lap, betraying none of the inner turmoil that might be expected in such a high-stakes environment. His icy blue eyes, calm and penetrating, swept across the courtroom with an intensity that hinted at a deep reservoir of thought and resolve. Every so often, his gaze would linger on the speakers at the front, absorbing each word and nuance, as if filing away insights for a moment when they would be needed most. Although only a law intern, Barron's presence was far from that of an unremarkable observer. Instead, it was clear that he was a man of quiet determination, a young individual who had learned early on that the loudest voices do not always carry the deepest truths. Beneath his serene exterior lay a mind sharpened by both rigorous study and personal experience, a mind that refused to be defined solely by his family name. He had come here not to merely witness history, but to silently prepare for the moment when his own voice would reshape the narrative. In the charged silence between the surges of legal rhetoric, Barron's inner strength seemed to pulse through the room. His calm was a beacon amid the storm of emotions, a reminder that composure in the face of adversity could be far more powerful than any outburst. Every detail about him, from the steady set of his jaw to the quiet determination in his eyes, spoke volumes about his readiness to stand up for what he believed in. In that moment, his quiet confidence hinted at a future where actions, not words alone, would define his legacy. For the seasoned spectators and newcomers alike, Barron Trump was more than just a law intern. He was a symbol of understated power, a person who understood that sometimes the most compelling change is brought about by those who listen, reflect, and then act with unyielding conviction. Judge Marcus Reed's eyes swept over the courtroom, and as if on cue, his attention landed on the unassuming figure of Barron Trump sitting quietly in the second row. With a condescending chuckle and a raised eyebrow, the formidable judge leaned forward in his ornate bench and declared, "Well, well, what do we have here? I see we have royalty in our courtroom today." His tone dripped with derision as he continued, "I imagine you're here for extra credit, son?" A ripple of laughter burst from the gallery. Reporters, law students, and influential onlookers exchanging amused glances, their whispers filling the charged air. The very words echoed off the high ceilings, mocking the quiet dignity that Barron exuded. Despite the mockery, Barron's icy blue gaze remained steady, his expression unreadable as he absorbed every barb. In that brief moment, the contrast between the judge's scornful theatrics and Barron's composed silence became starkly apparent. Judge Reed's voice cut through the murmurs as he continued his tirade. "Tell me, does sitting in a courtroom teach you more than your family's hired lawyers ever could? Or is it merely a chance for you to observe and perhaps, if you're lucky, learn something about justice?" His words, intended to belittle, hung in the air with a biting intensity that sent a jolt of shock through the room. The gallery's laughter gradually subsided, replaced by an uneasy silence as even the most skeptical spectators sensed that something significant was unfolding. In the midst of the unfolding spectacle, the tension became almost palpable, a dramatic crescendo that underscored the weight of every word exchanged. Barron, still seated with unruffled composure, seemed to embody the very essence of inner strength and quiet resilience. His presence was a silent rebuke to the arrogance on display, a reminder that true power is often measured not by loud proclamations, but by the unwavering conviction that comes from within. At this critical juncture, as the judge's mocking tone reverberated through the courtroom, the stage was set for an unexpected turn of events. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation, inviting everyone present, and you, our viewers, to lean in closer. If you're captivated by this dramatic courtroom showdown, make sure to hit that like button, drop your comments below with your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel for more riveting courtroom battles and stories of unyielding integrity. Judge Reed, seemingly unperturbed by the shift in energy, continued with a sneer, "Perhaps you'll surprise us all with more than just your silent observation. After all, justice isn't won by those who merely sit in the back." His words, laced with condescension, were designed to provoke, to force a reaction from the young intern. Yet, as the judge's mocking laughter reverberated around the room, it became clear that Barron Trump was no ordinary observer. His calm, dignified demeanor in the face of such scorn hinted at a well of inner strength that would soon challenge the very foundations of the courtroom's status quo. In that charged moment, the courtroom transformed into a stage where the forces of mockery and quiet defiance were about to collide, setting the scene for a confrontation that no one could have predicted. As the tension in the courtroom reached a fever pitch, Prosecutor Daniel Foster strode to the front with a purposeful gait that silenced even the most restless murmurs. His presence was magnetic, and as he adjusted his tie and cleared his throat, every eye in the room, especially those of the jurors and the visibly anxious defendant Michael Reynolds, fixed upon him. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice resonant and unwavering, "today we are not here to debate a minor financial discrepancy. We are here to expose a calculated scheme of deception and greed, a betrayal of trust that has scarred countless lives." His opening words reverberated off the polished wood paneling, instantly transforming the atmosphere into one charged with raw emotion and solemn determination. Foster proceeded to present a meticulously organized case, unveiling a trove of evidence that included forensic reports, detailed transaction logs, and a mountain of financial records. Each document was introduced with a precision that left little room for doubt. He described every detail as if painting a vivid picture. The cold numbers on a page were not just figures, but the shattered remnants of trust and the devastating consequences of unchecked ambition. As he spoke, his tone shifted from measured authority to passionate indignation. "This isn't just an account of money misdirected. It's the story of a man who placed his ambition above the very foundations of our shared values," he declared, his voice rising with fervor. The jury leaned in, captivated by the intensity in his eyes and the clarity of his arguments. With every word, Foster seemed to dismantle the facade of normalcy in the courtroom, replacing it with a palpable sense of impending revelation. His rhetoric was a masterful blend of legal precision and emotional appeal, forcing the audience to confront the gravity of the alleged crime. "Consider this," he said, pausing to let his words sink in. "The records before you are not mere paper. They are the silent testimony of betrayal, meticulously recorded in time." In a dramatic twist that sent a ripple of shock through the gallery, Foster produced a series of time-stamped documents that, on the surface, appeared to irrefutably place Reynolds at the scene of the crime. The evidence was introduced with such calculated precision that even the most skeptical onlookers couldn't help but be drawn into the unfolding drama. Yet, beneath the confident veneer of the prosecutor's argument, there was an undercurrent of uncertainty, a silent suggestion that every piece of evidence might hide more than it revealed. Undeterred, Foster's voice grew steadier, his words slicing through the charged silence. "This is not merely about fraud," he proclaimed, "but about restoring faith in a system that must be impervious to corruption." The courtroom pulsed with energy as his argument reached its crescendo, each sentence delivered with a mix of passion and clinical accuracy. The air was thick with anticipation, every spectator on the edge of their seat, hearts pounding in unison. In that moment, Daniel Foster had transformed the courtroom into a stage for a high-stakes battle, a legal showdown where every word carried the weight of destiny. His compelling narrative not only aimed to secure a conviction, but also to reaffirm that, in the face of greed and deception, justice would ultimately prevail. As the prosecutor's impassioned argument reverberated through the courtroom, an almost imperceptible shift occurred. The atmosphere, already charged with tension, reached a crescendo when Barron Trump slowly rose from his seat. In that pivotal moment, the silence that had enveloped the room seemed to hang in anticipation, as if time itself were holding its breath. Barron's demeanor, calm, resolute, and unyielding, immediately commanded attention, and every eye turned toward him. With measured steps, Barron approached the defense table. His gaze, a striking shade of icy blue, locked onto the prosecutor with a confidence that defied his unassuming appearance. The murmurs in the gallery dwindled to a hushed expectancy. In a voice that was both smooth and razor-sharp, Barron began, "Ladies and gentlemen, let's examine the evidence closely." His tone was devoid of theatrics, yet every word carried an undeniable weight, a promise of truth that challenged the very foundation of the case. Barron deftly flipped through the thick folder that had once been wielded by the prosecution as an instrument of conviction. With a subtle yet deliberate gesture, he pulled out a single document and held it high for all to see. "Notice the timestamp," he stated calmly, his finger pointing to the critical line on the paper. The alleged fraudulent transaction was recorded at 3:47 p.m. a time when, according to this official security log, my client was physically present at his company's headquarters. His voice, clear and unwavering, sliced through the thick tension, sending a ripple of surprise across the courtroom. The once confident posture of Prosecutor Daniel Foster wavered momentarily as the dam of certainty began to crack under the scrutiny of Barron's logic. Barron continued, his words growing more compelling with each sentence. "The prosecution has built its case on a series of assumptions, ignoring the simple fact that these documents contradict their narrative. They claim guilt, based solely on numbers and timestamps, yet they failed to verify the context in which these numbers were recorded." His eyes scanned the room, meeting the skeptical stares of the jurors and the incredulous expressions of the onlookers. In that electrifying moment, the courtroom became a battleground of ideas. Barron's rebuttal was not just a series of legal arguments. It was a masterful display of critical thinking and unwavering resolve. His ability to dismantle the prosecution's evidence piece by piece, with clarity and poise, transformed the room from one of predestined judgment into a forum where truth could finally emerge. The young intern's voice, though soft, resonated powerfully against the backdrop of the hallowed halls of justice. With one final, piercing question directed at the prosecutor, Barron challenged the credibility of the entire case. "If your evidence is so ironclad, Then why was there no verification of these crucial details? The question echoed in the silence that followed, leaving even the most seasoned legal professionals momentarily speechless. In that instant, the courtroom's energy shifted dramatically, a palpable recognition that the tide had turned. Barron Trump's fearless rebuttal not only unsettled the prosecution, but also redefined the dynamics of power in the room. His profound demonstration of knowledge and inner strength had turned the courtroom's collective gaze towards a future where truth and justice might prevail, and where even the quietest voice could spark an extraordinary transformation. In the aftermath of Barron Trump's stunning rebuttal, the tension in the courtroom reached its zenith. The jury retreated to deliberate, and every tick of the clock amplified the collective heartbeat of the room. Moments stretched into what felt like an eternity as the atmosphere simmered with a mix of anticipation, disbelief, and a fragile glimmer of hope. Spectators, from seasoned journalists to eager law students, exchanged nervous glances, each acutely aware that the fate of Michael Reynolds, and perhaps the integrity of the entire trial, hung in the balance. At long last, the jury foreman re-entered the courtroom. His face was etched with the strain of hours of deliberation, and as he clutched a single sheet of paper, a hush fell over the room. In a voice that trembled with both uncertainty and resolve, he announced the verdict. Not guilty. The declaration reverberated through the chamber like a shockwave. For Michael Reynolds, a man once overwhelmed by the looming specter of ruin, the verdict was a cathartic release. His rigid posture melted into one of palpable relief, his eyes glistening with unshed tears, as if the burden of accusation had finally been lifted. Prosecutor Daniel Foster, whose earlier impassioned delivery had commanded the room, now appeared visibly shaken. The confidence that had once radiated from him evaporated, replaced by a mask of disbelief and mounting frustration. His carefully constructed narrative, so meticulously built on layers of evidence and impassioned rhetoric, had crumbled in the face of Barron Trump's incisive challenge. Judge Marcus Reed, who had earlier mocked the young intern with a blend of scorn and condescension, now sat in reflective silence, his once smug expression softened into one of reluctant introspection. Barron Trump, the quiet force behind the turning tide, remained seated. His expression was calm, his eyes steady and resolute, a silent testament to the power of preparation and unwavering conviction. In that charged moment, his quiet dignity resonated louder than any outburst, shifting the courtroom's dynamics and leaving a lasting impression on everyone present. The unexpected verdict was not merely a win for Michael Reynolds. It was a victory for truth and the enduring promise of justice. As murmurs of astonishment rippled through the gallery, reporters scrambled to capture every nuance of the scene, their pens and cameras poised to document history in the making. Law students and onlookers alike wore expressions of awe and contemplation, as if this dramatic reversal had rekindled their belief in the possibility of change within a system too often mired in cynicism. In the charged silence that followed the reading of the verdict, the courtroom transformed from a battleground of legal maneuvering into a hallowed space where the triumph of integrity over preconception was unmistakable. For those watching at home, this moment was a stirring call to stand up against injustice, to question the narratives fed to us, and to believe that even the quietest voice can reshape the future. If you're moved by this incredible turn of events and inspired by the courage displayed today, please like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories of justice and resilience. In the aftermath of this dramatic courtroom showdown, the lesson that resonates most powerfully is that justice is not merely a cold, impersonal system. It is a living, breathing force that thrives on truth, courage, and the unwavering commitment to fairness. Barron Trump's bold stand, emerging from the shadows of quiet determination, reminds us that even those underestimated by society can spark monumental change when they choose to stand up for what is right. His resolute challenge to the fabricated narrative and his incisive dismantling of false evidence teach us that integrity is a powerful weapon against injustice. This trial was not just about a single financial misconduct case. It was a microcosm of the broader struggle between truth and deception, between those who dare to question authority and those who rely on established power to silence dissent. In today's world where misinformation and prejudice often cloud our understanding of events, the courage to seek the truth becomes ever more crucial. Barron Trump's actions serve as a stirring call to reflect on our own lives. Are we willing to question the narratives presented to us? Do we have the strength to look beyond surface appearances and challenge the status quo? At its core, the case reminds us that the pursuit of justice requires both humility and boldness. It is not about loud outbursts or the spectacle of confrontation, but rather about the quiet, deliberate commitment to uncovering and defending the truth. In an age when social media and sensational headlines frequently replace substantial dialogue, this story invites us to slow down, to listen carefully, and to let reason guide our actions. It challenges us to rethink what it means to be powerful, demonstrating that true strength lies in knowledge, resilience, and the ability to stand firm, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Moreover, the trial underscores the importance of holding our institutions accountable. When authority figures dismiss or underestimate those who do not conform to their expectations, they risk undermining the very foundations of justice. The courage displayed in that courtroom is a beacon for anyone who has ever felt marginalized or silenced by a system that favors the loud and the ostentatious. It serves as a reminder that every voice matters, and that genuine change often begins with one individual's steadfast resolve to challenge injustice. As you reflect on this powerful narrative, consider how its lessons might apply in your own life. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where speaking out against the tide of popular opinion required immense courage? How do you nurture your inner strength in the face of adversity? The story of this trial is a call to action for all of us to champion truth, demand accountability, and embrace the transformative power of a single, determined voice. If you found these insights as moving and thought-provoking as we did, please like this video, leave your comments below sharing your thoughts on what justice means to you, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories and discussions on the human spirit and the pursuit of truth.